emotions, his own incorrect thinking. How is incorrect thinking corrected? One way is through psychotherapy, talk therapy. Definition: psychiatrist, a person who asks you a lot of expensive questions you get asked at home for nothing. The most popular form is CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. In one of the best books I know, other than my own of course, The New Mood Therapy Feeling Good, David Burns says, your thoughts, your emotions follow your thoughts just as baby ducks follow their mother. But the fact that the baby ducks follow faithfully along doesn't prove the mother knows where she is going. But correct your thinking and your feelings will tend to fall in line, especially if you act on your thoughts, positive thoughts. The great psychologist William James said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that people can change their lives by changing their attitudes." Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, said, "If one acts with a pure, unselfish thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves." The philosopher Epictetus said, "It is not events themselves, but how we think about them that causes suffering." The New Testament says, "Don't let the world around you squeeze you into its mold, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Be changed by changing your thinking pattern." But you say, popping a pill is a lot easier than changing my thinking pattern. Surely drugs are effective nowadays? A large ongoing study by the US Department of Health shows a failure rate of 70%, 7-0. Imagine a hockey coach in the NHL putting out 6 players on the ice and 4 of them don't have a hockey stick. Well, you say, I've never heard of poor results like that. The New England Journal of Medicine, January 2008, under the headline, "Selective Publication of Antidepressant Trials," says, quote, "According to the published literature, it appeared that 94% of the trials conducted were positive. By contrast, the FDA analysis showed that 51% were positive. But in the trial I referred to, they made a second surprising discovery. There was a much higher proportion in the 30% success group who were married or with a partner. Question: were some of those people helped as much by having a partner with whom they could put their attention, on whom they could put their attention, as by the drug?" Which leads us to number 3, an ancient antidepressant lifestyle therapy that does not cause collateral damage. We've looked at antidepressant pills and antidepressant skills. Now we look at an antidepressant relationship lifestyle. It's in the holy books. Take Judaism. Job was badly depressed. We all remember the patience of Job. But do we remember what released him from his prison of depression? And God turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends, when he got his eyes off himself and onto the needs of others. It's in the New Testament as well. And again, it connects healing to showing concern for others and throws in the issue of dealing with guilt. Confess your faults to each other and pray for each other so that you will be healed. Someone has defined a cow as a machine which makes it possible for people to eat grass. Similarly, other people turn out to be the medium which make it possible for the depressed to find happiness again. I was doing a version of this speech at the Toronto Public Library, and I mentioned that the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once defined hell as other people. I was, of course, putting more stock in the philosopher Pogo. We have met the enemy, and he is us. The lady came up to me at the end and said she agreed with Sartre. I used to think the same. The antidepressant lifestyle therapy sees depression centered in our very interactions with others. What does it demand we do? 3 things. Clear the deck of guilt, of self-pity, and of self-attention. Clear the deck of guilt. A guilty conscience can mimic depression just as easily as certain physical conditions can. Many, in removing their guilt, have thereby removed their depression. For we can take a pailful of Paxil, but it won't budge a depression caused by guilt. Kinesiologist David R. Hawkins, an expert on the connection between emotion and physiology, says there is no antidepressant that will cure a depression that is spiritually based. For the malaise doesn't originate from brain dysfunction. Chemicals can't compensate for conduct. And going to church won't cure guilt. You don't have to take my word for it. Writers make a living making stuff up. Jesus said, if you're at your place of worship, and you remember somebody has something against you, go your way. First, be reconciled to your brother. Some church people used to tell Abraham Lincoln that all that mattered was that he believed correctly. His reply, when I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That's my religion. And we all know inside that whatever we believe or say we believe, what really matters is what we do. Why call you me Lord, Lord, and do not the things that I say? Of course, some think living completely unimportant. How we live is completely unimportant. One of my professors said, we come into this world getting burped off the edge of a cliff, and we leave it with a splat at the bottom. And he seemed to imply that it doesn't much matter what we do between the burp and the splat. And I thought, what a masterful, memorable metaphor. But I wasn't sure if I believed it. Now I'm certain I don't. For if you've heard as many people as I have, you will know that what we do in this world makes a world of difference to how we feel. In my first year of teaching in a 2-room school in Marlbank near Tweed, I did something that had a long-lasting effect. I lied about one of my students in court. As I recall, he had brought a knife to school and maybe threatened to use it. And I ended up recommending he be expelled, which obviously was not ideal, but it was legitimate because I felt that he posed a danger. What was not legitimate was exaggerating the facts to make it stick. And it did stick for 40 years. In the year following my mother's death, while reading a novel by George MacDonald, The Lady's Confession, I knew I had to deal with it. And on February the 2nd, Groundhog Day, 2005, I set out to find my former student, not knowing if he was even still alive. Near the end of our conversation, I said, Billy, do I have your forgiveness? Oh, expletive deleted, yes, he said, no problem there. And out of his black windbreaker pocket came his hand to shake mine. It was one of the loveliest experiences of my life. On the way home, I found myself singing, something I hadn't done in a while. And no, I'm not going to demonstrate. You can take that as a big favor. Guilt fastens my attention on myself. And undue self-attention is one of those factors that causes and perpetuates anxiety and depression in the first place. And guilt, being our strongest emotion, even stronger than loss, saps our energy. The very energy we need to take actions that will make a positive difference. Clear the deck of self-pity. Whereas guilt requires me to ask someone else to forgive me, self-pity requires me to forgive someone else. How do I forgive? Go on acting as if the bad behavior didn't happen. For in our self-pity, we can lock and bar the door, But that bar that keeps other people out keeps me in the dark dungeon of despair. And until I reach out and open the door to others, I am my own jailer. And reaching out is an inside job. Clear the deck of self-attention. When you focus on your own needs alone, your thoughts and your feelings which follow your thoughts can drag you down to despair. That prof who said you want to kick the self-centered blankety-blank in the shins was partly right. Because self-attention is the crux of this melody. Self-centeredness is the crux of this melody. And self-centeredness and happiness do not hold hands. Not only do they not go together, they've never met. When my 6 siblings and I were younger, our mother bought us one of these red, white, and blue sponge balls. And we used to bounce it off the back brick wall of the house where there was a wide space with no windows. And it was such fun because it would bounce back really fast. Life is like that ball. It has a bounce back. What I do for others, good or bad, I do for myself. Princeton University bioethics professor Peter Singer reports that the areas of the brain activated when we have sex are similarly activated when we give. When my daughter Jillian was 8 years old, I heard her say to her brother Casey in the yard, "You know, I feel better when I give something away." This childhood insight is in all the sacred writings. Take Judaism. He that refreshes others shall himself be refreshed. Rumi in Mystic Islam says, "In that moment you are drunk on yourself, you are the prey of a mosquito. But the moment you leap free of yourself, the moon catches you and hugs you in its arms." And in the succinct and subtle words of Jesus, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." A week before my mother died at 95, she said to my sister who was caring for her, "Tell me what to do, Dorothy. I want to be good." What do we really wish to feel when we lay our heads on our pillows? Isn't it clean and serene like a little child? What leaves us with that priceless feeling of innocence? Doesn't it include scrupulous honesty and doing good deeds for others during the day? Is there a short slogan, you ask, that will help me keep on track? I use the acronym WELCOME because when I look back at regaining my serenity, I see that I welcomed 7 actions into my life. Actions that take into account physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. Welcome to serenity. W-E-L-C-O-M-E. W, walk. E, express yourself. L, love your neighbor as you. C, confess wrongdoing to your victim. O, offer forgiveness. M, make smiles. E, I, others.